The heavy oak doors of the Evergreen Valley Country Club felt different under my hands now. 10 years ago, I'd been escorted out of these same doors by security, my family watching with cold satisfaction as I was labeled a disturbance. Now, I was walking in as the owner. Miss Harrison, the manager, Thomas, greeted me with a deep bow. Everything is prepared for the membership renewal meeting. I smiled, remembering how this same man had once followed my family's orders to remove me. He didn't recognize me now. Amazing what a decade, proper clothing, and success could do to change one's appearance. Thank you, Thomas. Is the main ballroom ready? Yes, ma'am. All 400 members are expected to attend. Of course they would. The mysterious new owner of their precious club had requested mandatory attendance for membership renewal. In a town where social status was everything, missing this meeting wasn't an option. I walked through the familiar corridors, my heels clicking against the marble floors. The place hadn't changed much, still dripping with old money pretension and carefully curated exclusivity. Family portraits of founding members lined the walls. I paused at the one of the Harrison family, taken 15 years ago. There I was, standing awkwardly at the edge of the frame, already an outsider even then. My father, stepmother Victoria, and their precious twins stood in the center, the perfect picture of upper-class superiority. The twins, Michael and Elizabeth, were dressed identically in white, while I wore a dress from the department store that Victoria had deemed barely acceptable. Would you like me to remove that portrait, Ms. Harrison? Thomas asked, misinterpreting my interest. No, I replied. Let's leave it up. For now. The ballroom was impeccable, with crystal chandeliers casting elegant shadows across the cream-colored walls. Place cards marked each seat, arranged exactly as I'd specified. The Harrison family would be in the front row, directly in my line of sight. I checked my watch, a Patek Philippe that cost more than my father had spent on my entire upbringing. The meeting would start in an hour, just enough time to prepare. In my new office, previously my father's sanctuary when he was club president, I opened my laptop and reviewed the files. Each member's financial history, social connections, and club violations were meticulously documented. But I was most interested in one particular incident from 10 years ago. The security footage had been archived, but money and technology could recover almost anything. I watched the grainy video of that night, my hands clenching involuntarily. It was my 21st birthday. I'd just graduated college summa cum laude, working 3 jobs while studying to pay my own way after being cut off at 18. I'd come to the club to celebrate with my family, naively believing that my achievements might finally make them proud. Instead, Victoria had caused a scene, claiming I was embarrassing them by showing up in a cheap dress. My father had stood silent, as always. The twins, fresh from their European vacation, had smirked and whispered behind manicured hands. When I tried to speak to my father privately, Victoria had called security. She's not a member, she'd said loudly, and she's disturbing our dinner. The video showed me being escorted out, tears streaming down my face, while the other club members stared and whispered. That was the last time I saw my family. Ms. Harrison? Thomas interrupted my thoughts. The members are arriving. I closed the laptop and stood, smoothing my channel dress. The outfit cost more than a year's salary for most people, a fact Victoria would definitely notice. Every detail had been planned, down to the Cartier bracelet that matched one she'd refused to let me touch as a child. The ballroom was filling up as I watched from the private entrance. I could see my family taking their assigned seats in the front row, Victoria was wearing her signature pearls, her nose already wrinkled in anticipation of meeting the new money owner who'd bought their precious club. At exactly 7 p.m., Thomas called for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this mandatory membership renewal meeting. It is my pleasure to introduce the new owner of Evergreen Valley Country Club, Ms. Catherine Harrison." The silence as I walked onto the stage was absolute. I saw the color drain from Victoria's face, watched my father's hands grip his armrest, noticed the twins exchange panicked glances. "Good evening," I said into the microphone, my voice steady. "Many of you remember me. Some of you might even remember the last time I was in this room. For those who don't, I'm the girl who was thrown out of here 10 years ago. The one who wasn't good enough for the Evergreen Valley Country Club." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Victoria was gripping her pearls, her knuckles white. "Don't worry," I continued. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for reformation. This club has long prided itself on exclusivity and tradition. But those traditions have too often been covers for cruelty and discrimination." I clicked a remote, and screens descended from the ceiling, displaying membership statistics. In the past 50 years, this club has rejected 98% of applications from minorities. The average age of members is 68, with no new members under 40 accepted in the past decade, unless they were legacy members. The club has been sued 12 times for discrimination, with all cases settled quietly using member dues. Another click revealed financial records. Additionally, the club has been operating at a loss for the past 5 years, sustained only by increasingly expensive membership fees that have forced out even old money families who built this place. The whispers grew louder. Many members were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. As the new owner, I'm making changes. All membership renewals will be reviewed based on new criteria: character, community contribution, and genuine merit will matter more than last names and bank accounts. Victoria stood up, her face flushed. "This is outrageous. You can't just change the rules. The board won't allow it." I smiled. The board was dissolved this morning. As majority owner, I have full authority to implement these changes. And before anyone mentions their lawyers, you might want to review your membership agreements. Section 7, Paragraph 3, gives the owner complete discretion over membership criteria. My father finally found his voice. "Catherine, be reasonable. This club has traditions. Traditions of exclusion and elitism." I interrupted. "Yes, I remember those traditions well, Father. Like the tradition of having security remove your own daughter on her birthday." The twins were whispering frantically, probably trying to calculate how this would affect their social standing. They'd built their entire lives around club membership, their marriages arranged through club connections, their children's futures secured through club networks. "Now," I continued, "let's discuss the new membership requirements. Each current member will need to reapply. The application will include a detailed history of your community service, charitable contributions, real ones, not just tax write-offs, and a personal statement about what genuine value you bring to this community." Horror spread through the room. These people had never had to justify their worth before. Their names and bank accounts had always been enough. Additionally, the club will now reserve 30% of memberships for promising individuals who demonstrate exceptional character and community impact, regardless of their financial status. The membership fees for these individuals will be subsidized by a new endowment fund. Victoria looked like she might faint. "You're trying to destroy everything this club stands for." "No," I replied calmly. I'm trying to make it stand for something worthwhile, something more than just inherited privilege and social discrimination. I clicked to the next slide, showing the new membership rates. Regular membership fees will be reduced by 40%, making them more accessible to a broader range of successful professionals. The saved money will go toward club improvements and community programs. The room erupted in chaos. Several older members were on their phones, presumably calling their lawyers. Others were huddled in groups, whispering frantically. My family sat frozen in their seats, their social world crumbling around them. Applications will be available starting tomorrow, I announced over the noise. Current members have 30 days to reapply. Those who choose not to, or whose applications are denied, will receive a prorated refund of this year's dues. As I turned to leave the stage, I paused. Oh, and one more thing. The dress code has been updated. We will no longer be judging members by the price tags of their clothing, but by the content of their character. The look on Victoria's face was worth every penny I'd spent buying the club. In my office afterward, Thomas brought me a glass of water. The members are quite agitated, Miss Harrison. I expect they are, I replied, watching through the window as people streamed out of the club, many already on their phones spreading the news. Your family is requesting a private meeting. I smiled. Tell them they can submit their membership applications, just like everyone else. As the sun set over the perfectly manicured golf course, I thought about the scared, hurt girl I'd been 10 years ago, the one they threw away because she didn't fit their image of success. That girl had gone on to build a tech company worth billions, revolutionize sustainable energy storage, and create thousands of jobs. While my family had clung to their social status and dwindling old money, I'd built something real. My phone buzzed with a text from my CEO. Acquisition of the other 5 country clubs in the region complete. Ready to implement changes whenever you give the word. I smiled, thinking of Victoria's face when she realized this was just the beginning. The Evergreen Valley Country Club was just the first domino to fall in my plan to reshape the social landscape of our entire region. The next morning, the local news was buzzing with stories about the changes at Evergreen Valley Country Club. My phone was flooded with messages from members, their lawyers, and surprisingly, from people applauding the changes. Victoria had attempted to hold an emergency meeting of concerned members at her house, but only half the usual social circle showed up. The others were too busy trying to compile their community service records, many for the first time in their lives. I sat in my office, reviewing the first batch of membership applications that had already been submitted. Most were painfully thin on actual community contributions, heavy on social connections, and financial statements instead. A knock on my door interrupted my reading. Come in, I called, not looking up from the papers. Miss Harrison? It was Elizabeth, my half-sister, looking uncomfortable in a dress that probably cost less than her usual attire. Can we talk? I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Membership applications can be submitted to the front desk. I'm not here about membership, she said, fidgeting with her wedding ring, a gaudy thing her husband had bought with his trust fund. I wanted to apologize. I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. What happened 10 years ago? I was young and stupid. I followed Victoria's lead because it was easier than standing up for what was right. And now that I own the club, your conscience suddenly awakens? She flushed. I deserve that. But things haven't been great, you know. Michael and I. We never really accomplished anything on our own. Everything was handed to us, and now you're realizing that social status isn't enough anymore. I finished for her. My daughter, Elizabeth continued, she's different from us. She volunteers at the animal shelter, tutors underprivileged kids. I'd always been a little embarrassed about it, but now I'm thinking maybe she understood something we didn't. I studied my half-sister carefully. There was something different about her, a vulnerability I'd never seen before. Submit your application, I said finally. Include your daughter's activities. And Elizabeth? Maybe it's time you followed her example instead of Victoria's. After she left, I reviewed the security footage from the parking lot. Victoria was there, waiting in her Mercedes, probably expecting Elizabeth to secure special treatment for the family. The next few days brought more surprises. Several older members, ones I'd expected to fight the changes, submitted thoughtful applications detailing decades of quiet charitable work they'd never bragged about. Others revealed talents and community contributions that had been overshadowed by their social status. But the real shock came when Thomas announced a visitor from the East Side, the part of town that had never been welcomed at Evergreen Valley. Ms. Harrison? There's a Mr. Torres here to see you. He's not a member, but send him in. Marcus Torres entered my office with quiet confidence. He wore a clean but well-worn suit and carried a folder under his arm. Thank you for seeing me, Ms. Harrison. I read about the changes you're making here. You're interested in membership? He smiled. Not for myself. I run a youth mentorship program on the East Side. We work with kids who have potential but lack opportunities. I was hoping to discuss a partnership. For the next hour, Marcus outlined his program's success in helping underprivileged teenagers access education and career opportunities. His passion was evident, and his results were impressive. We have facilities for sports training, I said, thinking aloud. Tennis courts, golf courses, swimming pools, all sitting empty most weekdays. And we have kids who've never had access to these kinds of facilities, Marcus added. Kids who could benefit not just from the sports, but from seeing a different world of possibilities. By the end of the meeting, we had drafted a plan to open the club's facilities to Marcus's program 3 days a week. The kids would receive professional coaching, and club members with relevant expertise would be invited to mentor them. As Marcus left, I saw Victoria watching from her usual lunch table on the terrace. The look of horror on her face as she realized what was happening was priceless. That afternoon, I called an emergency meeting of the remaining staff. Starting next week, we're implementing new programs, I announced. The club will host youth sports training, professional development workshops, and community events. I expect every staff member to treat these participants with the same respect shown to our highest-paying members. Thomas raised his hand. Ms. Harrison, some of the members are concerned about mixing with these new groups. Then they're welcome to submit their membership cancellation forms, I replied. This club will no longer be a fortress of exclusivity. It's going to become a bridge between communities. The changes weren't easy. Several longtime members did cancel their memberships, making grand speeches about tradition and standards. But for every resignation, we received 2 new applications. Successful professionals who'd previously been excluded, community leaders who'd never considered joining, young entrepreneurs who brought fresh energy to the club. Michael, my half-brother, tried a different approach from Elizabeth. He came to my office with a business proposal. Look, Catherine, what you're doing is admirable, he said, choosing his words carefully. But there's a way to make it profitable. We could create different membership tiers, charge premium rates for exclusive access. Still trying to maintain the hierarchy, Michael. He flushed. I'm trying to be practical. These changes, opening the club to everyone, It's not sustainable. I pulled up the club's financial projections on my screen and turned it toward him. Actually, it is. Our operating costs have decreased with the new fee structure. Corporate sponsorships for the youth programs are covering the subsidized memberships, and our event bookings have tripled since we opened them to the general public. But the exclusivity was killing this place. I finished. The world is changing, Michael. Either adapt or get left behind. He left looking thoughtful, which was a first. The real confrontation came a week later, when my father finally requested a meeting. He arrived exactly on time, wearing his customary suit and a carefully neutral expression. "You've made your point, Catherine," he said, sitting down without being invited. "You've shown everyone that you've become successful. Now it's time to be reasonable." Reasonable? I kept my voice calm. Like you were reasonable when you let Victoria throw me out? Or when you cut off my college funding? Or when you stayed silent every time she undermined and humiliated me? I was trying to teach you self-reliance. No, you were trying to avoid conflict with your new wife. And guess what? It worked. I learned to rely on myself, to build something on my own merits instead of family connections. He leaned forward. The club is your heritage too. You can't just throw away generations of tradition. I'm not throwing it away. I'm making it better. More inclusive, more meaningful, more aligned with actual values instead of superficial status. Victoria is devastated. Victoria is facing the consequences of her own actions. For the first time in her life, her social status and your money can't fix everything. He stood up, straightening his tie. You know this isn't just about the club. Your changes are affecting the entire social structure of this town. That's exactly the point, Father. And it's just the beginning. As he left, I thought about the scared young woman I'd been, believing I needed their approval to succeed. Now, a decade later, I was reshaping the very society that had rejected me. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus Torres. "First youth program session today. The kids are amazed. Thank you for giving them this chance." Attached was a photo of teenagers learning to play tennis, their faces bright with excitement and possibility. This, I realized, was what real legacy looked like. 3 months into the changes at Evergreen Valley Country Club, the transformation was undeniable. The once stuffy atmosphere had been replaced with vibrant energy. On any given day, you might find successful entrepreneurs mentoring startup founders in the business center, doctors from the East Side Hospital enjoying a round of golf, or teenagers from Marcus's program receiving tennis lessons from professional coaches. Victoria, however, wasn't going down without a fight. "She's organizing something," Thomas informed me one morning. "Secret meetings at her house with some of the old guard members. They're calling it the Heritage Preservation Committee." I smiled, reviewing the security feeds from the parking lot. "I know. They've been meeting every Tuesday for the past 2 weeks. Mostly the same group whose membership applications were rejected. The rejected applications had been illuminating. Victoria's inner circle had built their entire identities around social status, with virtually no genuine contributions to show for their decades of privilege. Their attempts to fabricate community service had been almost pathetic. "Should we be concerned?" Thomas asked. "No. Let them plot. They're fighting a battle that's already over." That afternoon, I had a surprise visitor. Amanda Pierce, Victoria's closest friend and fellow rejected member, walked into my office without an appointment. Her designer outfit and perfect makeup couldn't hide her desperation. "Catherine, we need to talk about what you're doing to our community." I gestured to the chair. Please sit. Would you like some tea? This isn't a social call, she snapped. Victoria told me what you're really doing. This isn't about inclusion or community. This is revenge. Is it revenge to expect privileged people to justify their privileges? To ask wealthy members of society to contribute something beyond their bank accounts? You're destroying everything we've built. What exactly have you built, Amanda? Your husband inherited his company. Your social status comes from spending his money. When was the last time you created something of value? Her face flushed. How dare you? I serve on 3 charity boards. Yes, I've seen the records. You attend 2 meetings a year and write checks with your husband's money. Meanwhile, our new members include surgeons who provide free healthcare to underprivileged communities, entrepreneurs who create jobs, and teachers who transform lives. Those people, they're not our kind. That's exactly what Victoria said about me 10 years ago. How did that work out? Amanda stood up, smoothing her skirt. You'll regret this. Victoria has connections. Important people are very unhappy with these changes. Important people should be more concerned with being good people. After she left, I received an interesting email from Elizabeth. My half-sister had surprised everyone by embracing the changes. She'd started volunteering at Marcus's youth program, teaching business etiquette and presentation skills to teenagers. You need to know what Mother is planning, her message read. She's trying to organize a boycott of all businesses that support the club's new programs. She's also spreading rumors about financial mismanagement and discrimination against traditional members. I forwarded the email to my legal team, then called Marcus. How would you feel about a press conference? I asked. It's time to show the community exactly what we're building here. The next week, we hosted an open house at the club. Local media were invited to see the youth programs in action. Successful new members shared their stories. Teenagers from Marcus's program demonstrated their newly acquired skills. Victoria and her Heritage Preservation Committee showed up uninvited, probably hoping to cause a scene. Instead, they were confronted with the undeniable success of the changes. A local news crew cornered Victoria near the tennis courts, where a young girl from the East Side was playing against a state champion. Mrs. Harrison, what do you think about the club's transformation? Victoria's practiced smile looked strained. While we appreciate the charitable intentions, many long-standing members feel the club is losing its special character. You mean its exclusivity? Marcus stepped into the interview because from where I stand, the club has gained character. Real character. The cameras turned to capture the tennis match. The young girl won the point with a perfect backhand. Her coach, a former country club champion who'd embraced the changes, cheering from the sideline. That evening, my father requested another meeting. Victoria is very upset, he began. Victoria is always upset when she can't control everything. He sighed, looking older than I remembered. She's talking about moving. Says she can't stay in a town where things are changing this way. And you? What do you think about the changes? He was quiet for a long time, watching through the window as a group of teenagers received golf lessons from a professional player. I saw the financial reports, he finally said. The club's revenue is up 40%. Membership is at an all-time high, despite the lower fees. And the community programs, they're making a real difference. But Victoria feels threatened. She's lived her entire life at the top of a very specific social hierarchy. Now that hierarchy is disappearing. Maybe it's time for her to find value in something other than social status. He nodded slowly, like Elizabeth has. She's different now. Happier, somehow. Her daughter says she's finally proud of her mother. Elizabeth chose to adapt, to become someone who contributes rather than just consumes. And Michael? I smiled. Check his new membership application. He's been working with some of our tech entrepreneur members, learning about actual business building instead of just inheritance management. My father stood up, straightening his suit jacket out of habit. Catherine, I should have stood up for you back then. Should have seen what Victoria was doing to our family. Yes, you should have. Is it too late to apply for membership myself? I handed him an application form. That depends on what you plan to contribute. The next day, Victoria made her final play. She called a press conference on her front lawn, surrounded by her Heritage Preservation Committee. Evergreen Valley Country Club has abandoned its principles, she declared to the assembled reporters. Traditional values are being destroyed in the name of trendy social engineering. We demand the restoration of proper membership standards. But her words fell flat. The local papers were more interested in running stories about the club's successful youth programs, about lives being changed and communities being bridged. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Elizabeth stepped up to the microphones after Victoria finished. I used to believe in those traditional values my mother talks about, she said. But I've learned the real value isn't about exclusivity or social status. It's about what you contribute, how you help others succeed. She turned to face Victoria. Mother, you taught me to judge people by their bank accounts and last names. But my daughter taught me to judge them by their actions and character. I choose her lesson over yours. Victoria's Heritage Preservation Committee began to dissolve after that. Some members, following Elizabeth's lead, submitted new membership applications focused on genuine contributions they could make. Others, like Amanda, retreated to their gated communities, clinging to a social order that was rapidly becoming irrelevant. A month later, Victoria and my father moved to another state, to another exclusive community that still operated on the old rules. But their departure felt less like an ending and more like a clearing of the way for something new. The club continued to evolve. We added educational programs, entrepreneurship workshops, and community health initiatives. The barriers between East Side and West Side began to blur as people from different backgrounds found common ground on our tennis courts and golf courses. Marcus's youth program expanded to include career mentorship and college preparation. Several of our new members, successful professionals who'd once been excluded from places like Evergreen Valley, became enthusiastic mentors. Elizabeth's daughter started an environmental initiative at the club, installing solar panels and creating a sustainable garden where kids from local schools could learn about ecology and nutrition. Even Michael found his place in the new order, using his connections to help promising startups from underprivileged communities find funding and support. Standing in my office one evening, watching the sun set over the golf course where teenagers from all parts of town were learning the game together, I realized something important. This wasn't just about changing a country club. It was about changing the way people saw themselves and each other. The old barriers of class and privilege were falling, replaced by a new measure of worth based on character and contribution. And that, I knew, was a revenge sweeter than anything I could have planned.